All right, we are live.
All right. Start out with Finance and Personnel Committee for Monday, January 27th, 2025. Call to order.
Alder Horton.
Present.
Alder Sebastian.
Here.
Alder Davis.
Present.
Alder Land.
Here.
Alder McCarthy excused. That completes roll call.
All right. This time we have approved our minutes from January 13th meeting.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, first item.
Item number 0073-25, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason on behalf of the Director of City Development, requesting approval of the 2025 General Economic Development Services Contract with Racine County Economic Development Corp., RCEDC. Staff recommendation that the 2025 General Economic Development Services Contract with RCEDC be approved. Fiscal note, the cost of the contract is $94,760. Sufficient funds are available in the City Development Professional Services account 16001-52100. Director Williams is here to speak on the item.
Yes, this is a thing that we're happy to bring up in front of you today. We have a very good relationship with RCEDC. It's an ongoing relationship. It's a relationship that we communicate each week with the principals from the organization. This way allows us to keep on top of current events as well as things that are happening in the community. And we have found them to be very responsive to our needs and economic development. I am going to allow Jenny Trek, who is the executive director for the RCEDC, to answer any questions that you may have. Again, we wholeheartedly support this agreement.
Any questions? Any questions from anybody in the committee?
We do have a presentation.
I did. I wrote some stuff for you. I could be brief. I know you have a full agenda.
Yeah, because I'm fully aware of what you guys have done for the city in the past, and just some of the local businesses and some of the startup businesses you guys have started up in the county, and also just some of our major things that have come to Racine, to the city, and to the county that you guys have been a part of. So I'm well aware and have seen the presentation in the past. I don't know if any of my colleagues want for her to proceed with the presentation, or if you guys have any questions on her.
I think a brief would be beneficial. So in your packet, you had a memo that outlined the goals and the results from last year. I'm going to focus on that. And then you also had the 2025 agreement in the packet subsequently. So as of last year, we had 4 priorities, and that continues for next year as well. But the first one was business attraction. And although you certainly have an interest in what's going on in Racine County, the memorandum that was prepared provides some specifics to the city of Racine. So always when we're doing business attraction, we may not be talking directly to the business. We're talking with what we call intermediaries. So that's developers, site selectors, real estate professionals, commercial lenders, etc. And we are always wanting to communicate the value of doing business in the city of Racine and the Racine County overall. And then answering any questions, submitting any request for information documents that may come to us. So we had a couple of different projects in the city. But we had a lot more residential projects in the city, as you'd expect, because as you know, in the city of Racine, you don't have a lot of industrial park land left. We've got a couple of land sites in Olson Industrial Park, the Southside Industrial Park, often referred to as Jacobson Textron, but otherwise housing developers have definitely discovered the city of Racine. So we talked to 9 of them this past year. And we also were a funder of the Racine County Housing Study. So we had done the initial one back in 2020, and we updated the Racine County Housing Study in late last year, and happy to share that with the development community at large, showing that we still have a dire need for more housing development in the city of Racine, in Racine County overall, with a heavier tilt toward for sale than for rent. Page 2 goes on to business expansion and entrepreneurship. So our primary focus in the work that we do is focusing on our existing businesses. And we do an extensive outreach program. We'll walk the downtown, West Racine, Uptown, Douglas Avenue area, and introduce ourselves to businesses. And to those we can't introduce directly, we'll send mailings out to business parks just to make sure that people understand what resources are available to them. So in a total, we had 329 incoming emails and telephone calls last year, and 84 of those were from City of Racine businesses that we were able to provide information about startup, grants, incentives, etc. Our outreach, that is the active walks, we did 502 contacts. 55 of those were with City of Racine businesses, as I mentioned, walking the commercial corridors and doing direct mails. We continue to manage the Racine County Matching Grant Program, which is a very popular program. And 8 of the 20 or so businesses that received grants last year were in the City of Racine, and those are listed there for you. And then in addition to that, we were able to provide a loan to a couple of them. Destroy Iron Fitness and the Blue Door Dental bought a building. Overall, our loan portfolio includes 41 active loans in the City of Racine. Many of these, you know the names. Mexico Lindo is one that's very popular. Ekman Motors, My Bread Bakery is another one that's a common name. We continue to try to collaborate more with our local chambers. Raymac in particular, we have a couple of different events going on with them that's focused on our manufacturing businesses. So we continue to host different events for under the guise of the Manufacturing Forum. And in fact, we have one coming up with the Connected Systems Institute, which is all the AI associated with UW-Milwaukee for some local businesses. And then, of course, you may have seen the videos. We did a videography with the mayor, just highlighting some of the exciting things going on in the city and the place to do business in the city. The last thing in that business expansion area was entrepreneurship. So this was a new program that we launched in 2024. It was a very successful model called BizStart Milwaukee that occurred for about 10 years. We really liked the model. It had a particular focus on people in poverty to lift them up with resources associated with entrepreneurship and starting businesses. And so we launched that first program, held it at the Racine Gateway campus, had 12 individuals go through the program and successfully graduate. And then once that program first phase was done, we matched them up with mentors, and that continues. And then the third phase, final phase of the program is matching the class participants up with Carthage College juniors and seniors. And those Carthage College students will actually be paid by RCDC, and they'll be engaged by the business to work on initiatives in the business. So it's a pretty robust, almost 12-month-long program. And so far the success is real. We're starting our second cohort either in March or April of this next year, or of this year. Third area of the strategic plan is talent attraction. We do this through stories and videos and highlighting communities on the Greater Racine County website. So that's kind of a sister website to RCDC's website. And that will continue on as we continue to work through that avenue. One of the things that we're going to be focusing more on this year is having a closer relationship with our high school graduates. So through, say, our USD's Academies program, making sure that there's a good linkage and introduction about the business employment opportunities that exist here locally. And we've already started that at Parkside to have a greater relationship there with some of their college graduates, just again, introducing them to opportunities that exist in Racine County versus graduating and leaving the area. And then the fourth category is our special projects. It's kind of a catch-all. So when we work with a municipality, including the City of Racine, Walt and his team, as well as the mayor, will assign special projects to us. So it's kind of an extension of staff, so technical staff that can work on specific projects. And those will continue into 2025. And they're listed there on the last page of the memo. And then finally, when we have incentive projects to any project, to any business, and they're usually multi-year initiatives. And so every year we do compliance to make sure that the initiatives that the business set to do, that they actually do that. And so that's what the compliance of the 4 development agreements indicates there. Vista Dental, Fisher USA, Marlowe, and then Summit Packaging. And then lastly, the dashboard is included. So the dashboard is, we have these goals, but we want to measure our success. And so each of the goals that we have a numerical goal, and the dashboard indicates what we've done. And so as you can see, overall, a lot of green on our report. Where we fell short is it was just a tough year for lending. The interest rate scared a lot of businesses from expanding. And so our existing businesses kind of took a pause. Now we're starting to see that is changing drastically. After the first of the year, we're starting to get a lot more inquiries. So hopefully we can help a lot more businesses with our low interest loans and some incentives and grant programs that are available. But overall, our board of directors, leadership council, were pleased with the outcome of last year. We're excited about going into this next year. Still committed to the Biz Starts for Scene program, which I think is a lot of resources. It's very intensive, but it's making a very positive difference in people's lives, and that's important to us. So happy to answer any questions or whatever I haven't included, please.
How are the participants in the entrepreneurship chosen? How do you find them?
So we did an extensive marketing. We went to cop houses, we went to community centers, we went to the library, we went to financial empowerment. So we did a pretty broad outreach because, to be blunt, the typical customer that we work with is a business owner. But we were really trying to tap into individuals that potentially might be in a poverty class. And so that was our intention. Now, what actually resulted is we may not have tapped the intended group that we had hoped, but word's getting out. And so as we're talking with like the empowerment group, the financial literacy group, they have clients that they're talking to and they're referring them to us. Same with the Small Business Development Center. So I think this next cohort will be interesting to see the composition of the class. To see if our goals are being met from our original intention.
Any other questions? All right, this time I will entertain a motion.
Second.
By Alderman, second by Vice Chair Sebastian. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carried. Next item, thank you.
Item number 0048-25, communication sponsored by Alder McCarthy on behalf of the Waterworks Commission, requesting approval of development agreement for the settlement at Hoods Creek Phase 5. Recommendation of Waterworks was to approve with referral to Finance and Personnel. Staff recommendation that the developer's agreement for settlement at Hoods Creek Phase 5 be approved. Fiscal note, developer pays all costs associated with the installation of the local water main, estimated at $350,000. Director Tillis is here to speak on the item.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me talk to you today. I'm here representing the water utility, using on wastewater items here for the water utility. And just a little bit of background on the developers agreement we're talking about. It is 1,500 linear feet, 12-inch water main that'll serve roughly 24 lots. It's located in the intersection, this would be northwest of Airline and Giddings Road. As mentioned in the fiscal note, the developer pays all costs. So this developer's agreement is just between the utility and the developer, that the utility has the ability to check out the project, check the project, and make sure they're installing it to the specs for the utility.
Any questions for Director Tillis? Nope. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Well, I'll make a motion to approve item 004-8 -25.
Second.
All right. Motion from the chair, second by Alder Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Director. Next item.
Item number 0095-25, communications sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Assistant Finance Director, requesting permission to apply and accept a $25,000 donation from Town Bank for the purpose of funding the Keys to Financial Security Literacy Program, an initiative of the Financial Empowerment Center. Grant control number 00607. Staff recommendation that the FEC local manager be given permission to apply and accept a $25,000 donation from Town Bank to fund the Keys for Financial Security Literacy Program. Fiscal note, annual donation amount of $8,333.33 to be given over a 3-year period, no match required. Assistant Finance Director Crystal Moore is here to speak on the item.
So I was before you, October, November-ish, asking for more of a blank approval on, for this initiative for the, excuse me, Keys for Financial Security. It was a blanket request that anything that we still back for sponsorship under 100,000 be approved. Understandably, Alderman Carthy wasn't okay with that, and so I'm coming back asking for requesting approval to accept, one of 2 grants, one for the Town Bank for Keys to Financial Program. It's basically an extension of what we're doing under FEC for Financial Empowerment Center. We're already offering a lot of counseling services and helping the residents achieve certain goals and set goals. This is an extension of other initiatives that we're doing to bring more people into the FEC and also expand financial literacy to the City of Racine residents to help get them ready for home ownership and prepare them for that. So it's a 12-month program in which they would participate in and learn various aspects of financial literacy, budgeting, credit, savings, and which they earn a financial incentive at the end once they've completed all the courses. And so we've had a couple of financial institutions come with us wanting to partner and support this initiative, and also need speakers to help us to guide those classes. And so I'm asking for permission to apply and accept, in this particular case, one from Town Bank who's offered to support this initiative.
Any questions? No? Any questions? I don't know, she said no. Okay, so just saying, I entertain a motion for this item.
Second.
I have a motion by Alder Davis, second by Alder Lamb. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 0096-5, communications sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Assistant Finance Director requesting permission to apply for and accept a $10,000 grant from Old National Bank for the purpose of funding the Keys for Financial Security Literacy Program and initiative of the Financial Empowerment Center. Grant control number 00608. Staff recommendation that the FEC local manager be given permission to apply for and accept a $10,000 donation from Old National Bank to fund the Keys for Financial Security Literacy Program. Fiscal note, grant amount of $10,000, no match required. Assistant Director Moore.
Different bank, different money, same
Okay.
program.
Any questions? I might entertain a motion for this item. Let's move by Alder Davis, second by Alder Lamb. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 0097-25, communications sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Fire Department requesting permission to waive formal bidding for firefighting protective equipment, PPE, and award the bid to McQueen Emergency. Staff recommendation that the Assistant Fire Chief be granted permission to waive formal bidding and purchase structural firefighting gear through McQueen Emergency. Fiscal note, contract bid is for $98,500 and covers from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. Funding to cover firefighting protective equipment is allocated annually in account 13001-53240, and there are sufficient funds available. Assistant Fire Chief Wolf is here to speak on the item.
Thank you and good evening. So per the department's agreement with the union, we'd like permission to purchase Lions structural firefighting gear from McLean Emergency. After careful considerations, Lions was selected by the department's Health and Safety Committee. The components identified in our decision include cost, safety, durability, dealer, and manufacturer responsiveness. Turnout gear that does not meet these standards creates safety issues, time out of service, and increases repair and replacement costs in the long run. For this reason, we would like your permission to use McQueen sole source in 2025.
Any discussion on this item? Thank you. Alder Davis.
So I know this is what you said, you did all your research and this is the one that will protect our firefighters.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, Alder Sebastian.
Well, Alder Davis basically said exactly what I was gonna ask. And you're sure this is exactly what you want and it's not the most fiscally responsible? Like,
Correct.
we're not choosing it because it's the least expensive, but this is what you want.
Correct. We did a wear test and we've used Lions for 2024. And before that, we did, before we selected Lions, we had 3 different vendors bring gear in. And we had individuals on the department wear it for 6 months and fill out a survey. And this was selected by the department. We've had nothing but great reviews. So that's why we'd like to move forward for 2025.
Perfect. Just want to make sure you boys are safe.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion if there's no comments.
Second.
We have a motion by Alder Davis, second by Alder Land. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 0027-25, communication sponsored by Elder Horton on behalf of the Director of Community Safety, requesting permission to enter into a sole source agreement with King Communication LLC for marketing and communication services for the period 1/1/25 to 12/31/25. Recommendation of Finance and Personnel on 1/13/25 was to approve the sole source. The recommendation of Common Council last week was to refer the item back to Finance and Personnel where it is today. Staff recommendation today that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to enter into a contract with King Communications LLC for marketing and communication services for the Department of Community Safety for the period 1/1/25 to 12/31/25. Fiscal note, cost not to exceed $100,000. Funds are available in account number 203145220020149 Community Safety Fund, Medical College of Wisconsin. Director Tate is here to speak on the item.
Good evening. Good to see you all again. Can we be heard okay? I know there was concerns last time around with hearing on the audio. So same item as it was presented last time around. I did provide attached to the ABM this time the proposed services by Kane. Again, these are potential but not limited to options. As we're going with the up to $100,000 option that includes media relations services, social media services, department website maintenance and content development, organizing the community town hall. That's a critical piece for us this year, as we recently finished our survey over the last year of community safety from the community. We want to be able to report out what that looks like. Obviously, that's going to be a relatively substantial report out and a communications heavy lift. So having some support and executing that, making sure that we have the right folks in the room, including folks who were included in the surveys, participate in the conversations. We'll need additional person power for that. I'm also developing a quarterly newsletter. We already have our first one for this month to go out. There was just delays on coordinating that, whether we were going to wait for the website to be up to date in its best form or go with something piecemeal as it currently exists. So we're deciding whether to deploy it now or wait on that. We'll probably deploy now. And then also wanted to do a 2025 end year report at the end of the year to kind of recap what we had done over the last year or over this year, and reporting out in a way that both is receptive to you all as council members, but also to the community as far as what we're doing, how we've done, who we've engaged, the stories that they're telling. And in addition to that, as you know, in the ABM, we indicate that these services wouldn't just be for servicing our department, but also our partners. That includes the Violent Crime Reduction Initiative, Collaborative, as well as anyone who ends up receiving grant funding from us. We want to be able to use these marketing services to amplify those community-based programs that are dealing with violence prevention from a public health perspective as well. So this contract and these services are not exclusive to serving just what we do in our department, but they're supposed to have additional impact through us to those we're also partnered with and collaborating with. I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for Director Tate?
I
Sebastian.
I want to say thank you, Director Tate, for sending us the actual proposal, because that gives us a better picture as to what we're looking at. And I apologize if I had missed that before. The only issue that I have, or may possibly have, is with the annual report. My question is why, and I love what you're doing. I love putting everything into your department and things of that nature. But my question is, why are we paying them to do that department's annual report?
Well, this would be more for the graphics and layout of the report. Obviously, we would create the content for it, but this would be the public presentation of that report. There's a difference between having a white paper and something that's palatable to the community that makes sense. So that's what the services that they're providing along those lines.
It's just kind of, as you look at it, it's, as it says, statistics that show the change in violence, that show the impact and this and that. I would assume those are already generated by you guys.
Yes, we would be providing the data in the report. They would be putting it together for reception and, formatting to the community.
Sure. So does any other department have the communication group to be able to do that for their departments? Or is that handled internally?
I can't speak to what other departments have. I do know that the police department has a public information officer. I believe the fire department does as well. Yes. Public information officer. So several departments throughout the city have communication officers that are dedicated particularly to them. So it's not,
You don't have any support at all. So this is what you got.
Yeah, I mean, it's me and my two staff who aren't trained to do communications. I have a bit of background, but that's from experience, not professional development.
That was one of my questions. And then going back from option A and B, can we get like a, A/B sort of in that? I mean, $100,000 is a lot, and I want that to happen for you, obviously. But I just get a little concerned. And again, Kane Communications does an excellent job. I want to go on record saying they do an amazing job. But like I said at Common Council, they're not a cheap date. So I just want to make sure that we're utilizing those resources in the most fiscally responsible way.
Right, so the request before is up to, and that includes some of the things that are indicated here. If we choose not to do any one of these components or don't engage to the extent that they have proposed here, that would mean the cost would be less than what is ultimately.
Correct, I understand that. But obviously if we approve up to 99,900, most likely we'll use all that money.
I mean, we have the option as a department that's grant received to either spend this money or send it back. So, I mean.
Oh
the
yeah,
goal
can the
is to
grant
spend-
be, so with that grant, could it, like if we lessen it, can it be used for something else for your department as well?
I mean, the only other areas we would use this, so these funds are coming from the contracted services
Yep.
and consultation line.
Mhm.
The other things that come out of that, grant funds to community-based organizations, as well as other professional services, as well as some other programming areas that we've identified that we're looking to fund this year. So there's no hard commitment to necessarily use contracted services for this amount, but based on what we're projecting for this year, it is a reasonable cost and will help us accomplish our objectives.
Again, I hear what you're saying, but if we say, let's go with the $50,000 plan, can you do something else with that other $50,000?
Yes, we
For the
could.
grant.
But also, if we had gone with the $50,000 option, I wouldn't be reporting today.
I have no further questions. Thank you for answering my questions.
Any other questions for Dr. Tate?
No questions, just a comment. I know looking, when you look at $100,000, sometimes it can look like a large investment, but speaking from my experience with hiring communications marketing agency, this $100,000 up to is about a low end, depending on what the work is, especially with this being a new program. Just to give you a little numbers, for a new program statewide, it was $40K to do the whole marketing. So just breaking that down, this $100K here will, I believe, help with the community safety programming, getting the limelight that is needed so that individuals will look to use this program and we can start getting to the violence reduction that is needed in the city of Racine. So, but I'm hearing you, Sebastian, about if it's not used, could we use it elsewhere, anywhere else for like those resources? So do you have, I'm assuming that with this proposal, you have some checkpoints. So say 6 months, if you hit some goals, you would know like you're not hitting 100,000 and you can reach out to your grant, your funder, and do whatever you need to switch your proposal to that piece.
Yes, I mean, again, as some of the items that are identified as services to be provided, we may choose midway through the year, quarter way through the year, say, you know, we're not gonna do this particular piece of it. And, you know, we'll find other ways to get those funds out to the community.
Thank you.
So, I would just like to say this before I entertain the motion. I'll just say, you know, the program is new, the program, is in its first year, so a lot of the stuff was kind of like backlog, Director Tate came on to do this, and then, you know, with the staff that he have, and just getting it out there into the community, so, kind of like, he had to do, you know, step back a little bit, kind of like create a plan of what it looks like, how it's gonna work. He also consulted with a couple people and having community conversations to hear what the public had to say about the program, or just how do they feel in the community. And so we all know that at the end of this year, 2025, he's gonna be asked questions of how did the program do? What do you got? What your numbers look like? So I think he's really just getting himself set and putting things in place so that when those questions are being asked at the end of this year, and when funding is depleted and there's no more funding, and he has to ask for other funding sources, he'll have something to say, this is what we've done, this is how it's done. And so I'm glad to hear that the question that Alderman Sebastian asked, that if, and Director Tate answered, if the entire 100,000 is not spent, that this can go back into the community to other programs and other programs within the city of Racine. So that's good to know.
We do have some degree of flexibility as we operate in the tranches of the grant. Not a ton, but there is, you know, 10%, 20, 15% flexibility between line items for the grantor. So.
Right.
See, I just think Director Tate is so baller that he wouldn't need so much help. And I mean that seriously. I mean that seriously, because I think Director Tate is excellent at his job. And I believe that this should exist. So that's the only reason I asked those questions, because I believe in it. I just didn't know we needed that much assistance. But now turns out everyone else has assistance, so I get it. So I'm done.
Oh, go ahead.
So just to give some folks some context, because with the exception of the Affirmative Action Human Rights Commission, I haven't been asked by any, you know, standing committees to talk about what our work has been. So I'll take this opportunity now to do it. We didn't hire our first intensive outreach specialist, or they didn't start until April of last year. We didn't get fully teamed up until May. So that was at the first point when the existence of this department and program, we were able to do intensely and earnestly what we set out to do. So we've already started to see some positive dividends out of that. Also, there comes a lot of growth and development and practice that comes with that as well. So we did not engage in a kind of frontal push to the community about what it is we're doing until we felt confident that we know what we're doing, how we do it, and that there can be success that comes with it. That's only why now we're coming forth saying this is what we want to invest in our communication strategy. Because prior to this, we were still figuring out how does this exactly work. Alder Horton knows, because he's a part of the team in developing our strategy and deploying our strategy. But yes, it took a while, you know, not only when I started in August 23, but up until, you know, the first component of the strategy that we're using, group violence intervention, to actually be fully deployed. So there's a reason why we're waiting until this particular portion of the contract's life cycle to make this particular kind of request. I think it also should be noted that these funds came after the initial Department of Administration grant, which was the seed funds for the establishments of this department. We are in the third year of this grant, but effectively the second year of our program. So that means that the funds that we had set aside to use for 3 years, we're trying to compact into 2. So that's again probably why this number is what it is, because we're trying to do as much as we can, as quickly as we can, knowing that these funds will not be here as long as we hope to be. So trying to give some folks context as to like, wow, why is this? I mean, had we done this from year 3, this probably would have been a much smaller number by this point for marketing and communications. But we are effective in practice in year 2 of a 3-year grant.
All right.
Heard.
Any further discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
All right.
Second.
Okay, so Motion by Alder Sebastian, second by Alder Lynn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Item number 0098-25, communications sponsored by Mayor Mason requesting to apply for a grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation for planning and/or designing engineering for resilient waterfronts, including waterways in the city of Racine on the Root River and Lake Michigan. Grant control number 00616. Staff recommendation that permission be granted to apply for the grant. Fiscal note up to $1 million with a 20% city match. City Administrator Sullivan is here to speak on the item.
Oh, this is a U.S. Department of Transportation grant, and it is an acronym for Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation. It's known as the PROTECT grant. And as some of you may recall, 5 years ago this month, we had a tremendous storm on Lake Michigan that pummeled the coastline of Racine from one end of the county to the other. I've had some meetings and discussions with both Smith Group, who's done some of our maritime engineering work, also with Director of Public Works Rooney and Parks Director Tom Molbeck. And we were in the past unable to even remediate this to its existing previous state because of the fact that FEMA had said that our previous state was also inadequate. Fortunately for us, we have this new program, and it is supposed to address making surface transportation more resilient to natural hazards, including climate change, sea level rise, heat waves, flooding, extreme weather events, which we had, and other natural disasters. The support of planning activities, resilience improvements, community resilience in evacuation routes, and at-risk coastal infrastructure. The idea being that we continue to have significant needs in this area. This would be a planning grant with the hope that in a future iteration of this, and it is an annual program, that we'd be able to also draw down some of the construction funds. And this is a minimum of a $500,000 grant from the Department of Transportation. And we are hoping to bring in more than that. So we put the match down here as a required 20% match. And so if we are funded at $1 million for the project, then our match would be $200,000.
If I may, so the next several grants are in apply only. Okay, they're new grants to the city of Racine, so we would come back to, if we are awarded the grant, we would come back to the Committee of Common Council, and at that time, we would know the exact amount of the grant as well as the match.
Yeah, that's correct. So we put in, and thank you, Kathleen, for that. So we put that number in as a placeholder. But yeah, we're just asking for permission to apply at this point. And then we'd be able to make, you guys would be able to make the decision as to whether or not the grant funds are worth the city investment.
Any discussion on that side? Nope. All right, I will entertain a motion to.
Move to approve.
Second. All right, moved by Alder Lynn, second by the chair. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 0101-25, communications sponsored by Mayor Mason requesting permission to apply for a Walmart grant for capital costs of the Lincoln King Community Center. Staff recommendation that permission to apply for the Walmart grant for capital costs for the Lincoln King Community Center be granted. Control number 00613. Fiscal note $300,000 with no city match.
And this is exactly as Kathleen described, no match and funding of up to $300,000 from the Walmart Foundation that would be used for Lincoln King Community Center.
Any discussion on that?
So is this Kathleen being creative, like she said she would, to find as many grants as possible to fund this project?
Yes, and I will say I take no credit for finding this one at all. This one actually came from some of our consultants. So we're gonna give it a shot. These next few are generally for more general nonprofits than they are for governments, but we are still gonna give it a shot because a lot of the services that are being provided within the community center are more nonprofit type services. So we have a great grant writer on staff, so hopefully Susan can shore up some money for us.
Oh, well, hats off to whoever found them.
Any discussion on that? This time I entertain a motion on the item.
Move to approve.
All right, I have a motion by Alder Sebastian, second by Alder Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next item.
Item number 0102-25, communications sponsored by Mayor Mason requesting permission to apply for a Home Depot grant for capital costs of the Lincoln King Community Center. Staff recommendation that permission to apply for a Home Depot grant for capital costs for the community center be approved. Control number 00614, fiscal note 250,000 with no city match. Again, same type of situation. We're gonna give it a shot, see what we get, and we'll come back to you when we find out whether yay or nay.
All right, any further discussion on this item? At this time, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second,
We
All
should have
right.
put these all together.
moved by the vice chair, second by the chair. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next item.
0100-25, communications sponsored by Mayor Mason requesting permission to apply for a Racine Community Foundation grant for capital costs of the Lincoln King Community Center. Staff recommendation that permission to apply for a Racine Community Foundation grant for capital costs of the Lincoln King Community Center be granted. Fiscal note $50,000 with no city match. Again, this is more of with the Racine Community Foundation, which I think Alder Sebastian is familiar with. You actually have to do a letter of intent. So we will do that part of the process first, but again, to get it through our legislative process in a timely fashion, that's why this is here.
All right, any discussion on this item? All right, I will entertain a motion for that.
Move to approve.
Second. All right, moved by Alder Land, second by the chair. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed?
I have to abstain.
Okay, one abstain and motion carries.
Okay.
Next item.
Item number 0103-25, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason requesting permission to apply for a Johnson Controls grant for capital costs of the Lincoln King Community Center. Staff recommendation that permission to apply for a Johnson Controls grant for capital costs of the Lincoln King Community Center be granted. Control number 00612, fiscal note $500,000 with no city match. Control number 00612. This one would be specific for Johnson Controls. Relating to the solar panels that are on the actual community center and clinic. So it's covering about a fourth of the cost of the solar panels. Solar panels are about 2.2 million, something like that. So we're gonna give this one a shot too.
All right. Any discussion on that? All right, this time I will entertain a motion for this item.
Move to approve.
Okay.
All right, so moved by vice chair, second by Alder Land. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 0085-25, communication sponsored by Elder Horton on behalf of the city attorney's office, submitting the claim of Progressive Insurance Company on behalf of their insured, Cassidy Nacolazo, holy cow, for consideration for disallowance. Staff recommendation that the claim be disallowed. Deputy City Attorney, it's here to speak on it.
Progressive on behalf of the insured, Cassidy Nicolazzo, claims reimbursement in the amount of $16,467.84 in damages that allegedly arose from an auto collision that she had with a Racine DPW vehicle in the vicinity of the intersection of Wright Avenue and Illinois Street back on July 26, 2024. We're requesting disallowance because the city disputes its liability for the claimed damages and the amount of the damages that have been claimed. So we are requesting that disallowance to permit the parties to determine the proper resolution of this matter while the city's interest by limiting the applicable statute limitations in accordance with state statutes. Basically, it limits the statute limitations for her to file a lawsuit against the city from 3 years to 6 months.
Any discussion on item? Ed. You want something? You have a question?
I have a question, but I don't know what it is.
All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion for the item.
Move to disallow.
Second. So it's moved by Alder Lance, second by the chair. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item
Yes,
number 0072-25, communications sponsored by Elder Horton on behalf of the city attorney's office submitting the claim of the Lucretia McFarland for consideration for disallowance. Staff recommendation that the claim be disallowed.
The claimant, Lucretia McFarland, filed a claim with the city requesting $60,000 in damages related to an alleged civil rights violation. She claimed it was an alleged violation of her Fourth Amendment rights that occurred during a traffic stop conducted by the Racine Police Department back on March 2nd, 2024. The city denies this liability for the civil rights violation and the claim damages. Therefore, we're recommending disallowance of this claim.
Any discussion on that? At this time, I will entertain a motion for that.
Move to approve.
Disallow.
Second.
Oh, disallow. Thank you.
Okay, all right, motion by Alder Sebastian, second by Alder Nguyen. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right,
That's it.
we have exhausted our agenda. We are now adjourned. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
The zoo says thank you.
Yes.